What I would like is for them to observe, to see, to look. If the viewer does that, I'm pleased. That's the beginning and the end place right there. Because it's about seeing. Painting's about seeing. You have to see it to get it. And I think if anyone spends a little time with them, they'll begin to find their way. But I believe that about all art, and all it takes is a little viewer time, a little seeing time. I think history's helpful. I think the narrative that could be descriptive as a backdrop could be helpful. But I think if the viewer, any viewer, including me when I go to look at work, if I just spend a little time, I can find my way. And my way is my experience, and your way is your experience. And so I think I can create the Colosseum, but I may not be able to tell you what to view in it. But I can create the crucible for you to begin your relationship with my work. I've talked about the space between often with people about my work, and understanding that the space between you and I, there's you, the reality, there's this space, and then there's me, the reality. We're bridging this right now, this space together. I'm trying to do the same thing with that painting as if it's an organic entity that I'm engaging across a space and time, and it engages me back and forth, and then we go back and forth with it. Me to it, it to me. Almost like you're in dialogue, you're in conversation. It's like originally the structure of these paintings before the first sediments, there was an organic stage left form, there was an organic stage right form, and there was a gravity poured center. And so it was like, I thought of that as these two organic forms trying to communicate across this void, this spatial void that I also tried to paint, this void. And then appendages started coming across. And I think that's how the sediments actually started, is these color probes came across from organic stage left, organic stage right, and tried to talk back and forth across that space. And to enliven it and to bring it to life, almost like the theater. So when I say organic left, right, stage, I'm thinking of the theater, and that this is an active theater that I'm engaged in. I like this statement, that's why I brought it with me, and I can't commit it to memory for some reason. Sediments, Symphony in Rose Major, that was the title of the show, which the majority of these paintings came from that show to this show. Sediments, Symphony in Rose Major, is a tribute to the layers, complexities, and harmonies that constitute our core. That place where every action, thought, dream, and fear has settled, and where hope continues to soar. So I was really pleased. I don't think I can say that enough in a way, how I got to be a viewer of my own work, and that's rare. You know, I got to just be in the wonderment of seeing with my own work, and I love that moment, where I get to be eliminated as the artist and just enjoy the pleasure, the viewing. I knew this was a life choice. This was a life decision. This wasn't just about art school. This was about me and my relationship to this planet. And so this wasn't going to be just for fun. This was going to be high stakes. This is my life. I became the painter I set out to be, which suddenly scared me years ago when I became that painter. It was a long time ago that happened, but it's scary. You become that which you seek. And now, I always said to myself, if I couldn't get it, I would have to give it up. But I've questioned it many times, but it keeps sustaining me and resonating at really deep levels. And I keep finding my way again and again with it. But yeah, it has to be, I knew very early this was forever. This was my life's work. So I'm the manager. I'm orchestrating the color, the light, the space, the energy, the activity of the painting. So I'm in charge of that, of making it alive or not alive. And so built into that now is a whole system of, not a system, but a whole bunch of different things like doubt and confidence and belief and lack of and undermining and correcting and watching paintings come and go and whether or not they come alive. And I'm the first to go wherever that painting needs to go to try to become alive under my value system, under my understanding of what the painting needs. Because in the end, I guess all it is me making those discernments, like it would be any other artist making their discernments for their work. It's me up against those value judgments that determine that life force in that thing. But the color, the paint, and the support help manifest that. And so I lean into them heavily and see what they do as I start to build this deposit of information up on this surface and see where they go. And I flow with it. I go with it in that moment. And if it goes well, then that moment extends for hours and hours and hours, days and weeks, months and years. If it doesn't, then you run into yourself somewhere out there at some point. And then that's a place of stoppage. That's a place of you take accountability of what's taken place in front of you. You look at it, you can still be in wonder with it, you can still have the magic of it happening, but it's submersed, it's underneath, it's like underneath some sort of gauze, or it's just out of reach, or it's not quite there. And I think everybody experiences these things in life all the time. And so I don't feel any different in that way. It's fundamental. And so sometimes, as I mentioned a moment ago, that goes awry. That painting doesn't quite get where you want, and then the painting starts to fail, right? You got it just where you thought you had it, where it was just tipping into this zone that was the place that you wanted to get to. It's almost like the elephant burial ground or something. It's some strange, unrecognizable location that becomes identifiable to you right then and there visually when it works. But the minute it's gone, it's like the way I can forget a word or a conversation or a phrase, and it's gone. And we just did that a moment ago. And then when that happens, the thing starts to fail. It starts to fail, and then it starts to come down out of itself, and pretty soon it's in complete arrest. And the contest is about making the painting alive and well. In the end, it's like putting this breath of life into this inanimate color, paint, support thing that wasn't prior to that, but has its own vitality, its own energy, its own life forces, all moving around in it. And so my job is number one is to make something that's alive and well and can live on its own. And that's the big contest. That's the part that was absolutely essential as part of the big three and part of the contest to keep the painting alive and well so that I could be real in my life with it. And somehow that all makes total sense to me, and I hope it's making sense as I verbalize it now. So you end up knowing a lot about, and that's why the big three were so important, is you end up knowing so much about life without ever having to leave your studio in a way, or your writing desk or whatever, because you've found your way into one of these places that is so big and huge to the manifestation of all of us. And it's so simple. Sometimes days it's so clear and so simple to me, I can't even believe it. And I wish I had the cameras and the microphones then, and I could say it all. But most of the time, I'm not anywhere near it. And the only way I know how to get near it is to work. That's the closest I can get. is to make the work.